What up friends, I'm James, your host, and today I'm going to be reviewing the newest EP by Saint Motel, the original motion picture soundtrack, Part 1. This is the newest offering by the band since their fantastic sophomore album back in 2016 called Saint Motel-ivision. It's actually one of the few 10 out of 10s I would ever give out. They've had an interesting shift in sound since their debut, coming from very indie rock origins and transitioning into this sort of indie retro pop outfit in recent years. This EP just adds even more fantastic sounds into Saint Motel's repertoire. Old Soul is an incredibly distinct start of the album with AJ's very confident and almost haunting vocals alongside this very simple and beautiful synth. One thing that I do really like about the song as well is how when the vocals pick up in the track, so does every other instrument. They all follow the vocals, and I love the subversion tactic used here by this sort of build-up to the pre-chorus and chorus. And then the chorus and pre-chorus themselves are just very low-key. It's a great way to sort of break out of the mold. The very subtle sounds of the horns and the guitar picking, along with the very full sound of the keys, give this song an excellent sort of 70s singer-songwriter feel. I really like the vibe of this one a lot. And to add on top of that, during the outro of the track, the guitar just kind of comes in full force and adds more of an oomph to the song, and I think it's a very distinct way to end the song, and it's just a good culmination of all the different subtleties and sounds that we've heard up to this point. The lyrics are also very elegant and nostalgic to back it up, with all of these glistening metaphors alluding to gems and different forms of light and shines. It's very breathtaking in a certain respect. Next we move on to Sisters, which is much more of a quirky track. It even features this sort of Shepherd Sisters sample that adds this sort of bouncy and playful energy to it. This whole aesthetic fits the lyrics, especially of AJ kind of looking back on his past with his sister and how close their bond was and all the weird stuff that they would do together. It's really nice. The sugary chorus where the keys and the driving bass line just mesh with the sample, it's also super sweet to hear. It's probably one of the best moments on this song. And one thing I also really appreciate is how personal the lyrics are. I kind of touched upon it before, but I love all the specific references and examples that he gives, like how the bouncers will let him and his sister through to clubs, or how she introduced him to weed and music. It makes the song more personal than if it was just like a general sibling relationship or something like that. Now, Van Horn is more akin to the Saint Motel-ivision sound rather than the new stuff that they were exploring with on the other tracks of this EP. It's just bass-driven pop with these sort of mystical guitar riffs. It's just super catchy, and it just makes it a pleasant song to hear. They even throw some electronics in for good measure, and I think that really sort of shakes up the structure of this EP, and it also shows that they're not afraid to experiment with certain things that might be a little bit away from their retro pop sort of sound. It's just a fun and flirtatious little tune that has a nice message of wanting someone to love for real and not just when they're drunk or for a one-night fling. They want something deeper. I also love the confidence that's displayed with the J. Paul Getty and Smith & Wesson lines. They're pretty funny. Having the brass come in at the end also adds a sort of glitzy touch that makes it feel like we're at this sort of glamorous party or something like that. I love the energy that comes off of this track. Diane Mozart is probably the only song on the EP I'm not too crazy about. It's not bad or anything, but I think it could have been fleshed out way more. I like to focus on the keys with a very driving beat, but the lyrics are pretty bare bones here, which is unfortunate considering all of the sort of elegant lyrics that we've had in the previous few songs. The message of sort of starting dreams young and pursuing them into adulthood is a pretty interesting concept, and I think it had potential, but just the way it was done feels kind of generic, and the vocals also sort of lack the punch, I think, that's needed for a track like this. I do think the chorus is good, though, and I like the message that it has of helping each other be themselves. Everybody is different, but we can help each other stand out like that. The transitions between the segments of the songs are also not as seamless as they were on some of the other tracks on the album. It just feels a little bit disjointed here and there. Save Me, however, is a great way to end the project. These beautiful horns and strings just mingle with the bells and AJ's solemn vocals about moving on from someone that he genuinely cares about. I like the aspect of looking back on the good that this person did for him, not really the bad. It's just that he had to move on for whatever reason, and I think the solemn tint in AJ's vocals really help reflect on this. This is also translated into the lyrics as well, where it's sort of uplifting in how he's hoping they maybe will meet again, but even if they don't, their parting was for the best, but at least they parted on decent terms. It does get a tad repetitive near the end, but the instrumental is captivating and dynamic enough to kind of make up for that. The heartfelt delivery of the lyrics really does help pull the song along too, so even though the song is a bit stretched out, you're at least emotionally invested the entire time. I also love the isolated brass that comes in before the finality of the drums at the end of the song. It's such a fantastic climax, and I think it highlights the instrumentals a lot. So, Saint Motel's newest EP. While not perfect, it does show how, once again, they're not afraid to experiment and go off and do some crazy tangents while also sticking to their core sound. The tracks are varied and interesting, beautifully layered, and overall just very well put together. The lyrics are good for the most part, but sometimes they can be a bit rocky. There are some that are very charming and vivid, like Sisters and Old Soul, but also others being too bare, like on Diane, Mozart. Overall, I'm very happy with the band's direction at this point, and I'm looking forward to the other two parts, kind of continuing and expanding on this sort of musical adventure. I'm feeling a decent 8 on Saint Motel's original motion picture soundtrack part 1. But of course we do have to talk about the album cover on this show, and I love this album cover. It's so cool. I love this sort of, it's not pop art, but it's like kind of getting there. It has this very retro look, but also brought into the modern age. I love the sort of navy blue color scheme paired with the black. It just has this like very theatrical appearance that I really appreciate, while also being very well designed. It's not gaudy or anything like that. It's a really good cover. I hope the other EPs also, or the other parts of this series also continue this sort of graphic design format. What did you think about this EP? Did you like it? Did it sort of expand on what you wanted to see expanded, or did it go in a way that you didn't expect? Let me know, because that's what this is all about. But that's that. Thank you for watching, and until the next one, farewell.